Welcome to Education Matters, presented by the Public School Forum of North Carolina. I'm your host, Mary Ann Wolf. Today, we're joined by North Carolina Teaching Fellows Director Bennett Jones, along with some fellows, both past and present, to explore how the program can impact individuals with a passion for education, as well as our state's educator pipeline. Today, we are pleased to be joined by Bennett Jones, North Carolina Teaching Fellows Program Director, Dr. John Denning, the Senior Advisor at the John M. Belk Endowment and former Teaching Fellow at Elon University, Jessica Peacock, the Policy Engagement Coordinator at the Public School Forum of North Carolina and former Teaching Fellow at NC State University, and Claire Parker, a current Teaching Fellow at Meredith College and NC State. Welcome to all of you. Bennett, I'd love to start for you. And if you could, for those who may not be familiar, give us a really brief overview of what the Teaching Fellows program is today.
Sure. Thank you, Mary Ann, and it's a pleasure to be with you this evening. So the North Carolina Teaching Fellows is a loan forgiveness program facilitated by the state of North Carolina, and it's designed to help close the gap which may prevent someone going into teaching, especially by providing financial assistance in order for them to achieve that teaching licensure. One of the big caveats between the current program and the old iteration of the Teaching Fellows program is that it allows for multiple entry points. And so we specifically target high school seniors that are interested in becoming a teacher, but we also extend our recruitment efforts to colleges and universities to see if people might be interested in changing majors into an educational major at one of our institutions. And we also offer opportunities to be a teaching fellow as a residency candidate. So we could have current teachers who are in the building who are working toward licensure, who may be on a permit to teach or an emergency licensure piece that need additional assistance for them to get an initial teaching license. And so any of those could be a possible teaching fellows. We're located at 10 universities beginning next year. We were able to expand the program to 2 additional universities across the state of North Carolina. And we are specifically targeting in the measure, the legislation, teachers who are interested in teaching in the areas of STEM areas, elementary education, and exceptional children education. And so we, throughout the year, advertise the program, work to get applications for the program. And then as people apply, our commission works to approve those fellows who then will pursue education and teacher licensure at one of our 10 partner institutions, and hopefully work toward that completion of that degree or that program. And in return for being a teaching fellow, they agree to work as a teacher in a North Carolina public school for a number of years, based upon how many years they received funding. So it's really a bridge and a conduit to start people who want to be a teacher, to getting them trained to be a teacher, and then helping to get them placed into schools across the state as a teacher that's fully licensed.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Bennett. Now, Claire, you are the current teaching fellow joining us today. Can you share why you decided to participate in this program?
Yes, thank you guys so much for having me. I came from a family of teachers. My mom was a teaching fellow. My sister was a teaching fellow. And so I always knew about the program. I knew what opportunities it had provided for my family. And so I was always interested in it. I did not start my school journey at Meredith. I started at the University of Tennessee in a different major, but then I decided I really wanted to do education. And I said, I'm going to come back to North Carolina to do that so I can do the Teaching Fellows program there. So that's when I came to Meredith, was after the first semester of my freshman year. And it's really just been a great experience with everything that I've been able to gain from this that's not in a traditional education program.
Wonderful. Now, John and Jess, you all chose to be teaching fellows a few years ago. And I'd love to hear first, like, who or what encouraged you to be a teacher? John?
Yeah, so thanks for the opportunity. You know, being a North Carolina Teaching Fellow is a title that I lay claim to anytime I get the opportunity. I went into this program thinking that it would be an opportunity to think about a job, and it has certainly become a career. And I think that for me, it was instilled early on by my grandmother, who was a teacher, that this opportunity for thinking about doing good in the world and contributing to make the world a better place, there's no better way to do that than through teaching. And so the experience of being a teaching fellow and then an advocate for the profession has certainly given me that opportunity.
Wonderful. And Jess,
Thank you, Marianne, for having me. I actually am probably considered a textbook case as far as recruitment goes for teaching. So I actually started in the teacher cadet program in high school. And I started in the program, I think they had 2 levels. So I started in 10th grade, just learning about the basics of teaching. And I loved school. I loved my teachers. And so the opportunity to participate in the teacher cadet program just aligned with, my school experience, which was exceptional. And so from the teacher cadet program, they talked about the Teaching Fellows program as a way to help pay for college, especially if we were interested in continuing on, right, with our studies of education. And so a group of us actually applied, and I was actually able to, I was awarded the Teaching Fellows program with 10 other students from my high school. And we ended up actually going to different colleges, but so it all started again in 10th grade with a teacher cadet, the teacher cadet program, which was an elective offered by my high school. And I was able to take advantage or be awarded the Teaching Fellows scholarship to continue on into my career as a teacher.
wonderful. And Claire, from your experience, what do you feel like the biggest benefits of being a teaching fellow? You mentioned it a little bit at the end of your last answer.
Yes, so for me, it's been the experience. With Meredith Teaching Fellows, you are considered a group of Meredith Teaching Scholars, which they have their own kind of version of it that includes other majors and concentrations as well. And so when I became an NC Teaching Fellow, I automatically fell into that group. And that meant that I got to have field placements earlier than some other schools might be. And I was really in the classrooms for a long period of time. So the previous school year, not this past one, but the one before that, I was in a middle school setting and I was getting all the experience there. And then from this past school year, I was in an elementary setting, and that has really prepared me because I actually did end up taking on a long-term sub position recently in a cross-categorical resource classroom, which was exactly what I was working with through Teaching Fellows. And so it was really beneficial to have that experience.
That's wonderful. And John, you've had a very interesting and impactful career in education. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about some of the biggest benefits to you having been a teaching fellow throughout your career.
Yeah, so it's so exciting to hear Claire talk about her experiences because it is that kind of exposure to real practical opportunities in the classroom and in the learning environment that I remember fondly as a teaching fellow and then as a supporter of the fellows program over the years. It's that intentionality about joining the profession and being a practitioner of skill for what it means to be good teaching and learning in practice. And um, just being a part of that community of practitioners, it was something that was instilled in us very early on, and I think has led to sort of this community of practitioners over the years. And it's really, quite frankly, what the state should be doing even more so to think about recruiting and promoting the profession as it should be. And it's just one of the reasons why I'm such a big advocate.
Thank you. And Bennett, I know that this program focuses heavily on recruiting North Carolina students to become North Carolina teachers and really to help build a pipeline, which in a lot of ways has been struggling for the last few years. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about why that's so important to recruit our students here into these teacher roles.
So the data that we've collected from the program since the program was instituted in 2017 shows that there really are 2 factors as to where students who graduate from a teacher preparation program choose to teach once they've completed it. One is that they generally, the most common response is that they go home wherever home came from. After they get their degree, they go back home to teach in their area. So that's why it's important for us to recruit from North Carolina and all areas of North Carolina, from the mountains to the coast and everywhere in between, because we know that's a determining factor for a lot of folks, is to where they're going to go to school and then they're going to go back home to teach afterwards. The other is that they tend to stay in the area of where they went to school. And so for us, it's important to have a geographical footprint across the state at our partner institutions, knowing that if they came from a different area and they choose to stay in that area where they went to college, that we're able to help support them there as well. So that's why it's important for us to recruit across the state from all areas, because we know that that's how we're going to be able to address the teacher shortage and the teacher demand that is going to be out there, especially in our more rural areas across the state, maybe areas that are not as socially economic beneficial for teachers in terms of their local supplement and what they're able to provide. And so this is a way for us to try to help close those gaps in terms of where teachers are located in North Carolina. It's great that we're producing teachers across the state, but we also need to producing them and making sure they're going to work in all areas of the state so that we can ensure high quality education for our students, again, from the mountains to the coast and everywhere in between.
Thank you so much. We'll return after the break to continue our discussion about the Teaching Fellows program.
Education Matters is brought to you each week in part by Participate Learning, uniting our world through global learning.
Welcome back. We are so pleased to be joined by Bennett Jones, North Carolina Teaching Fellows Program Director, and former and current teaching fellows, Dr. John Denning, Jessica Peacock, and Claire Parker. Welcome back. How can North Carolina better support educator recruitment given the times that we're in? And Jess, I'd love to have you start.
Thank you. I believe that the very first thing is to change the narrative. When you talk to anyone about teaching, tell people that you're a teacher, right? The first thing they want to talk about is pay. And so to really change the narrative around teaching, we have to tell different stories. We have to tell the stories, again, from classrooms that are 15 kids big to the classrooms, right, that are almost 30, right? Like there is still joy in teaching. And so I don't know, like if North Carolina, like what North Carolina's role is in that at the state level, but I know, across districts, the school districts, just really, really allowing teachers to share those stories of joy, those stories of success and that reward, along with the stories that are, mostly being told, because we're not selling, right? This is all magical, this is all good, but there needs to be a better balance of the reward that comes from being a teacher in North Carolina.
Thank you. And John, thinking about your lens, both across North Carolina, but I know you also bring a national lens to this. What can North Carolina do to better support educator recruitment?
I love that word joy of teaching because it's so true. I've had the opportunity to have a lot of different jobs, but I always say that teaching was the most enjoyable job I've ever had. But it's more than just the cute and fun stuff of teaching. It's really about being a part of a profession and knowing your skill and your trade and being able to describe the professional skill that you bring to that. And Jess is right. The conversations about working conditions and pay, those are all very real substantive issues. It doesn't negate the fact that we ought to respect people who are in those roles and that we need to encourage more people to take on those roles because it is a life-changing opportunity. It's a great opportunity to not only do good for the world, but to really impact the lives of students and families. And anything that the state could do, should do, would do around the teaching profession, it ought to be about not the barriers or the problems that are true, but about the opportunity that exists to develop relationships and to really be the life-changing practitioner that really good teachers can be.
Thank you. And Claire, I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about how you've been able to connect with current educators, but also future fellows, because those of you right in front of me right now are so clearly the people that can help bring people into the profession because they can hear the truths. And I'm wondering what that experience, Claire, has been like for you.
At Meredith, I know we had a lot of different committees, and I had attended some recruitment events and talked to students who were even considering thinking about something like this and said, hey, look, this is what it can get you. I would definitely say go for it if you're even like the slightest bit interested, because it's a good opportunity and you need to just start getting your foot in the door with that. But also just having kind of like, I believe John said earlier, like having the teaching fellows label on your resume or something is such a big connecting point and resume booster in a way. They're like, oh, you're a teaching fellow. My mom was a teaching fellow. This person was. And it's just kind of a connecting factor for a lot of people, but it also kind of sets you apart with that level of respect and honor that those come with.
Wonderful. And lastly, I would just love to hear your one piece of quick advice for people who are interested or at least thinking about entering the teaching profession. And Bennett, I'll start with you.
I will say there's no more rewarding profession, and it was something certainly that the joy that you find in being a teacher to me has been second to none. And so my piece is that there are opportunities that are out there for everyone who might be interested in being a teacher. Teaching, an investment in teaching fellows. We either get to produce a quality teacher or we get our money back. So there's not a dollar wasted in our program. And so what I would tell the people that think they might be interested, it's a great way to not only earn an education and a post-secondary degree, but to give back and to be supportive in your community and to really help shape the next generation of the world that you want to live in.
Claire, what advice do you have?
I would say to give it a try. That is my biggest piece of advice to anyone that's even considering it, because it's so different. Every day is different. Even on your hardest days, you can come home and be like, well, I really had a good moment with this child today, and there was this good interaction. And so even though all the EC paperwork was overwhelming and everything, I can really hold on to this one thing, and that can be what's driving me forward. And so it's okay if you're not liking it, because having teacher on your resume is a very nice looking skill, because if you can teach, you can do all the things that come with that job, and it's not easy. So definitely give it a try if you're interested.
Wonderful, including making what, 10,000 decisions a day or something, I think they say. So Jess, what is your advice?
My one piece of advice to someone going, considering a career in education, would be to enjoy the moment, because teaching is not only an investment in your community, but also an investment in yourself. You too get to reap the benefits of a high quality public school system, one that you're a part of that can help shape and influence, and how you shape and influence, right? Your school, your classroom. There's way more opportunities now than there were back then. So a lot of people think, right, okay, you can just be a teacher. No, a career in education means a lot more, and you have a lot more opportunities, and there's a lot more roles where you can, again, shape and influence, right? The return on a high quality public education system.
Wonderful. And John, you get the last say here.
I'll just try to be brief and say, ignore the naysayers. Don't listen to these people. I actually had a good close family friend of mine who said to me, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I was like, "Absolutely, I do." Don't listen to those people, because it is a great opportunity. It's a skill builder. It's a great opportunity for you to think about making a difference, but also building your career. We need good people. We need good people. We need good people.
Thank you so much to each of you for being here. We need more of all of you, that I know. And it was great to learn not only about the Teaching Fellow program, but also about each of you. So thank you for joining us. After the break, this week's final word. This year, my youngest child, Andrew, graduated from high school. And yes, I'm feeling all of the pride and all of the empty nest fears that go with that. However, the part of the graduation celebrations that struck me the most was the day that the seniors all went back to their elementary schools. I had the opportunity to join Andrew at Morris Grove Elementary, where he had spent grades K through 5. As we walked in, we were immediately greeted by his principal, Amy Rickard, who had been there on his very first day when he really wasn't so sure about staying at school for kindergarten. Miss Rickard knew every child's name as they walked in, and these 18-year-olds were so thrilled to see her and their former teachers as they paraded through the school. One teacher had stickers of these 18-year-olds, but with their third grade faces. Another stopped to take a picture with the 10 graduates who had returned very early in the morning to see their primary classrooms and teachers. These educators left a lasting impact on my child and so many more, and they truly shaped the students as learners and as people. This beautiful story that left me in quiet, joyful tears isn't possible without well-prepared, high-quality teachers to help students to achieve their goals and dreams. As we've said many times before, research shows that teachers are the #1 school-related factor affecting student outcomes. On this day, right before graduation, I could see this right in front of me. Knowing this, it is pretty clear that maintaining North Carolina's teacher pipeline should be a top priority for our state. But our local schools are struggling to recruit and retain teachers. This is evident as the number of students enrolling in educator preparation programs has decreased significantly in the last 10 to 15 years. The perception that teaching is a noble but not properly respected profession has discouraged potential educators who could be in classrooms helping students succeed today. As a state, we have to address this, and programs like the North Carolina Teaching Fellows Program are vital to doing so. The Teaching Fellows Program encourages North Carolina students to attend in-state colleges and work as teachers within the state once they finish their education. This seems simple, but the impact cannot be overstated. It creates an avenue for our young adults to begin a career and help address the very real teacher shortage. It also creates an avenue for those already working who want to be teachers to go ahead and be engaged in the Teaching Fellows Program. As today's guest shared, the program also helps alleviate many of the issues those beginning or interested in beginning a career in education face. Growing, retaining, and diversifying North Carolina's teacher pipeline was one of the Public School Forum's top education issues in this biennium. Our specific policy recommendations include increased teacher compensation by 24.5% to get to the national average, including significant shifts in beginning teacher pay, but also for our veteran educators. To eliminate the requirements for teacher licensure exams that are not predictive of educator effectiveness, like the Praxis Core. Provide flexibility in how districts can utilize position allotments to address instructional needs. Increase the diversity in the number of National Board certified teachers by reimbursing certification fees and providing support for teachers of color during the process. Collect more actionable data on teacher satisfaction, disaggregated by race on the Teacher Working Conditions Survey to inform recruitment and retention efforts. Open the North Carolina Teaching Fellows Program to prospective teachers in all subject areas and structure financial supports as scholarships rather than forgivable loans. Some progress has been made, including the expansion of the Teaching Fellows Program to include 10 partner institutions rather than 8, and K-6 educators rather than limiting it to STEM and special education. This year's top education issues also notes a recent increase in funds for advanced teaching roles, teacher assistant tuition reimbursement, and the creation of $1 million grant program for National Board Certified reimbursement. These are great steps, but we can and must do more. We owe it to our children to make sure they have everything they need to succeed, including well-equipped and supported educators. Thank you for taking time with us to learn and think about education. That's all for today, and we'll see you next week.